Hello everybody and welcome to another installment of my new player guides where I look at a hero from Marvel Champions, look at the 15 or 16 or 17 cards in their player kit plus their obligation and Nemesis, just to get to the bottom of what their deal is, what they bring to the game, and I guess what hazards you have to worry about as you are playing through the game. Before I get to today's hero, Neena Thurman, aka Domino, let me also just say real quick, if you enjoy the discussions about the encounter set, there is a podcast, Critical Encounters, that is primed for you to listen to. They actually just did an episode as I'm recording this, maybe like last week or the week before, about Domino's Nemesis, and that was really good. We'll get into some of the finer details when we get there, but it was really good. And then there is The Winning Hand, which is a podcast just about card analysis, one card at a time. Love the show. You should give it a listen. And then for just gameplay and other videos, feel free to look at Ray Plays Games, Solo Marvel Champion, and Get Up in Game. They post with a range of regularity. Get Up in Game did a lot of really good content, and at the time of recording this has not put anything out in I want to say close to a year, but still, there is valuable content, especially if you're a new player out there. But that is all distracting from what I think is the belle of the ball today, Neena Thurman, aka Domino, a 3 recovery alter ego with the mutant trait, and the action: choose a card in your hand, swap that card with the top card of your discard pile, 6 card hand size, 9 hit points. And because because both sides kind of are so interlinked, let's just really quick touch on Domino here. She is a 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 defense hero with the Posse and X-Force traits. When counting resources in cards discarded from the top of your deck, count each wild resource twice. Action: choose a card in your hand, swap that card with the top card of your deck, limit once per round. So I will say that this ability is very strong in my opinion. It does a lot to feed into her ability. She has the ability to bend probability to basically always be lucky. And so with a situation like this, one, Neena allows you to take your mulligan and always have the chance that if there's something you don't draw into, there might be a card in your mulligan that you might want to just pick up again. That also does set up really well her hero ability, where she can swap the top card of her deck with a card in her hand. I will say that playing this digitally can be a little cumbersome just because you have to take a card and put it off to the side and then pick up another card and then put that card on top. And, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just part of playing the game, and in person it just is a lot more smooth. But being able to basically know what the top card of your deck is, considering that you are going to be incentivized to take the top card of your deck and put it into the discard pile, not only can you just set up your luck, but you can basically say, you know what, if I'm only going to get 1 resource off of the top card of my deck, this is the card that I just want to burn. And it gives you an extra draw, so that 5 hand size kind of becomes 6. And on the other side, that 6 becomes a 7. And actually, especially when you're doing mulligans, that 6 might as well be a 11 or 13, I suppose. She is one of my favorite heroes. She is easily in the top 10. She might be in the top 5. I'm not sure. She was highlighted as my go-to protection hero. And that's because her kit is so strong that whatever you want to put around it is really up to you. There's places where she thrives. For me, she thrives really well in protection. I think she also would thrive very well in justice. Aggression and leadership, I'm kind of so-so on. And Pool, I think there's a lot of opportunity for Pool, but unfortunately, because she cares about the printed icons on a card, she doesn't benefit from the Pool resource cards. All to say, her ability to thwart is obviously low. Her ability to attack is on average, and her ability to defend is really great. I often find that I'm willing to just lower the amount of damage I'm taking by defending back to back to back, especially with that lower health, because I know that the cards in her kit are strong enough that she sort of is just a 3 defense every turn hero if you need her to be. But let's get into how her card adapts to her kit, or how her kit basically supplies what this card wants to do. First up, let's just talk about Jackpot, because it is a great resource. So Jackpot is a resource response. After this card is discarded from the top of your deck, shuffle it back into your deck. Importantly on this, and I learned this kind of the hard way, if this is the last card in your deck, it going to your discard pile is going to shuffle the rest of your discard pile into the deck, which means you're not going to be able to see this repeatedly, or you're still going to see it repeatedly, but you're not going to necessarily see it. You're not going to be able to like basically do it back to back to back. Ideally, I want to get my deck as thin as possible and turn this into something where I am basically a 10% chance to hit Jackpot once it shuffles back in. At the same time, if it winds up in your hand, you can just put it right back on top and use one of the cards we'll be looking at in a second to basically kind of go, well, you hit the jackpot, because you are going to do 3 of something when it comes to what Domino's looking to do. I very rarely use this as an actual resource, although the times when I do, it is so nice to be able to trade in 1 card for playing another card, where in a world where you normally are looking at exiting 4 cards out of your hand just to play 1 card. That said, great card, and you are probably going to find yourself mostly using it for the top of the card, shuffle it back in ability, but never say never. Then let's look real quick at her allies. She has 2 of them, which is kind of an uncommon thing. It was an uncommon thing at the time. It's become a little bit more of a thing that we see now that Bishop has also had 2. And I'm trying to think. Oh, I suppose Iceman had 2 as well. So Diamondback is a 2-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 health. Action, exhaust Diamondback, deal 1 damage to her, and discard the top of your deck. Deal 1 damage to each enemy for each resource icon discarded this way. Her 1 thwart, 1 attack. I mean, obviously you could do those, but for the most part, Diamondback is the kind of card where you are hoping to set up a situation where you can deal 2 or 3 damage. Hit a wild icon resource. Hit a wild resource icon, deal 2 damage to each enemy on the field. That is so helpful for scenarios where you are basically trying to hit the villain while also maybe clearing out some enemies, some minions. Basically, your imagination is the ceiling here. Like, she can do so much, and it's just a matter of setting up your deck to make that happen. And then we have Outlaw, a 3-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 3 health, Outlaw Posse. She has toughness with an interrupt. When Outlaw attacks, discard the top card of your deck. Outlaw gets a +1 attack for this attack for each resource icon discarded this way. So once again, she can attack for a lot. She can attack for 4, 3 times, if you were so lucky. For the most part, she's going to attack for 2 or 3. It's pretty easy to set up a situation where you just have a double resource on the top or a wild resource, and she's attacking for 3. And that makes her a very potent ally. Whereas Diamondback is the kind of clear out everything ally, Outlaw is you're just going to be precise and take out the one thing you don't want to see. Toughness really helps. That gives her an extra activation. Once again, thwart is not Domino's forte, which I suppose is why Justice can be so helpful, and why I would say Protection is probably a good place for Domino, especially once you move into multiplayer and there can be somebody handling the threat. Because as you can see right here, there's not a lot of repeatable threat removal that is just kind of on the actual characters that we see. Next up, we move to 2 copies of Right Place, Right Time, a 2-cost event. Superpower Thwart. Hero action, remove 3 threats from a scheme, discard the top card of your deck. For each resource icon discarded this way, remove an additional threat from that scheme. Like I said, her her threat management is pretty low. Right Place, Right Time is a great card to get your 4 or 5 threat removed. This card makes up for the fact that there's not a lot of other things that she's going to be able to do about it naturally in her kit. I mean, every hero has their thwart card. I would say this is a pretty decent thwart card in comparison to others. And I guess the thing that I take the most from Domino is that you are going to be paying attention to the top card of your deck a lot. But you can really only guarantee a card once, unless, you know, you have a situation where you have a 2-card deck and Jackpot, and you can basically say 50-50 shot of hitting 3 of every time. Then, you live in that magical Christmas land. But for the most part, you are trading off, do I want to do a bunch of threats? Do I want to clear a bunch of enemies? Like, you're going to have one guaranteed big activation. That big activation might be 2, it might be 3. But in a situation like this, it's like, okay, how bad is the threat? Do I need to clear 4 or 5? If not, am I okay with 3 and hopefully 5? It's interesting how once you get into the groove, there's that guaranteed and there's that hopefully activation. And I would say for the most part, right place, right time is the kind of card that I want the guaranteed. I know exactly what I'm going to get. Sometimes there's a lot of wild resources in her kit, so it's going to be hard to find an example. Actually, everything in her kit is a wild resource. That's kind of cool. But let's just take, I got this sitting right here. So obviously you're not going to hit Kurt's Cutlasses. Let's just say that okay, I have no wild resources in my hand, but I'm not going to use this card with a physical resource on it. I would rather know I'm going to clear 4 threat, because the clearing of threat is not necessarily the most important thing to me, but I want to play this card to help manage that. And I'm willing to say, well, let's hope that the second to top card of my deck is something more promising, so that the next card that I'm going to use this for might be 2, might be 3. And that's just the balance that you kind of face as you're using Domino. What can I afford to be the thing I know is going to be versus what am I going to hope that I hit? And sequencing your cards so that the guaranteeds and the hopes are where you want them to be. Next up, we've got 2 copies of A Good Workout. Oops, there we go. A Good Workout, a 2-cost event, attack superpower. Hero action, attack, deal 4 damage to an enemy and discard the top card of your deck. For each resource icon discarded this way, deal an additional damage for that attack. So once again, we're right back to where we were before. This could be 5, this could be 6, this could be 7 damage. For the most part, I would say I view this as probably going to be a 6. Very sparingly, is it not going to be a 6? Because there's almost half of your deck is going to be wild resources. If you're doing it right, you're going to, if you feel like you must, you have a double resource of, your energy, your strength, your genius. So there's a good chance this is going to be 6. I really appreciate this card. I think it is great. I think that it is in keeping with what it's not too powerful. Like there are better cards than this, although this has such a nice wide range that as long as you know that the 5 that you're pretty much guaranteed to do is going to be enough to take it out, this is a card that I don't feel bad if I overdo the damage. Now, if I was in aggression, then I had access to marked, I probably would be like, okay, let me make sure that I'm actually going to get overkill damage. There's not much more to say. It's a lot like Right Place, Right Time. This is the other card that kind of goes in that pair of, this is the guaranteed versus the hoping for reveal. Am I hoping for 6? Am I fine with just 5? This is a kind of card like both of these cards. Both of these cards are just great for being that support. What does the table need? Does it need threat removal? Does it need attack? Do I need to take out a troublesome minion with a lot of health? Like Strife. Strife has 5 health. Is that something I need to do? Then I've got a good workout ready. If we just need to get the threat down and I can help, I'll use this. And like I said, the sequencing matters so much. Like the what is good versus what am I hoping for. That's gonna be like the phrase of the entire video. Next up, one would think these might be my favorite card in the pack, and they are very close. This is the reason why I'm so okay with Domino being a almost always defense activation. And I suppose protection, one of the things that drew me into protection was that you have the readying that you can access pretty easily, meaning that she's not just going to protect. But frankly, Domino's pistols basically are a domino attack every turn. You are probably going to deal 2 damage with each of them. You are almost guaranteed to deal 2 damage with at least one of them because you know what the top card of your deck is. If you need to deal 2 damage, you got it. And you can spread out that 2, 3, 4 damage across 2 different bodies if you need to, or you can just put it right into the villain, whatever you need. I love Domino's pistol. I compare a lot of cards to Domino's pistol. I compared the Iceman ally, the Snow Clone, to Domino's pistol because in my mind, both of those are a pretty consistent 2 damage. But not my favorite card. We're about to get to my favorite card. And that is Probability Field. Probability Field is a 2-cost upgrade, traded superpower. Interrupt. When you use a basic power all across the gambit, healing, thwarting, attack, defense, discard the top card of your deck. You get +1 to that power for the use for each resource icon discarded this way. This does not exhaust and just turbocharges every one of your basic abilities. So if you'd like to attack for 4, you can probably attack for 4. If you'd like to defend for 5, you can defend for 5. If you have the deck set up correctly. Actually, defending for 5 might be a little more difficult because you can surely set up the top card of your deck, but you're going to draw through it. That might be a bad example. Either way, you feel pretty confident that you're defending for 4 at least. This is such a stellar card. It makes up for the fact that she thwarts for 1 because she probably thwarts for 2. And once again, this does not exhaust. You get to use this. If you ready back up, you get to use it again. If you attacked for 4, then 5, then you ready back up one more time, maybe get 3 more damage in. This is the card where a week or so ago, I was playing with some friends online, and Magic just did 21 to 24 damage in by herself. And I just sat there preparing for my turn and then going, oh, I guess the game's over. This is the card that if you have the ready set up, this just turns you into a monster and just closes that gap. Oh, do we need to deal 21 damage? Well, let me supply 18 of that. People will criticize the Domino is too good in some aspects, and that's because she can bend probability with her probability field, with her ability. That's just what she does. And this is the kind of card that really does take the math of the game and just go, listen, we might not win here, but I'm going to get us very close. And I love her for that. Next up, we've got the Painted Lady, a 1-cost support vehicle. Response: after you discard a card from the top of your deck, attach that card face down here to a maximum of 3. Alter Ego action, exhaust the Painted Lady, add 1 card attached here to your hand. I know this is a popular card. I know that a lot of people sing its praises. I honestly do not get use out of this card. And I think it's to my detriment. I think that it is a card that probably would be very helpful. It's just, unless I get it in my opening hand, I generally have other things I want to be doing with the cards in my hand. And unfortunately, this is not one where I want to stop the pace of my game. Even though, like I said, it would probably benefit me so much to be able to do this. And I don't, unfortunately. But that said, the ability to basically say, okay, I would let's take probability field I would save. But let's take Jackpot as an example, or just basically any wild resource. Let's say you don't think you're going to be able to deal with Alter Ego right away. This way you can save it and you don't need to wait to shuffle it back into your deck to draw through. That's great. Like I said, I am the dum-dum for not taking advantage of this. This is a great card that you should very much use, and I just don't. Lucky Break is a 1-cost upgrade superpower. Hero Interrupt: when you reveal an encounter card, discard Lucky Break, cancel the effects of that card and discard it, reveal another card from the encounter deck. So classically, this is something that you'd want to use something like Shadows of the Past. This is something you want to use against Shadows of the Past, or maybe there's just an interrupt or a treachery. that just is so detrimental to you, or I guess like a side scheme that you just don't want to deal with when it comes up. This has its uses. I often find that sometimes it does kind of turn into, oh gosh, what was that? I think I'm getting this wrong, but I've heard of content creators basically talking about the Phoenix Down problem in Final Fantasy, where you have these items that you keep saving because what if you need them in the future? And Lucky Break is kind of that. It can sit there, and sometimes it's just a target for caught off guard. It's not meant to be, but it just ends up being that way, where I plan to use it at some point, and it just turns into something that just gets discarded as protection for my other upgrades and supports. Then we have Pip the Pug, a 1-cost support creature. Alter Ego action, exhaust Pip the Pug. Put 1 Domino or Posse card from your discard pile on top of your deck. Great card. Use it pretty consistently because Domino, I would say I don't generally go to Alter Ego a lot, but if I do need a card back, if I'd like to be drawing into right place, right time next turn, Pip the Pug is a great card to do that. And if you happen to find yourself starting out in Alter Ego on a turn, this is a great way to either set up your deck to get that activation you know what it's going to be, and that allows Domino to also set up the next activation. Or this is a way for Domino to just give back a card in her hero form that, like, I want this, I'm going to put it back on top, then I'm going to swap a card in my hand for that card. It does help Domino be a great recursion hero while also being utilized as 2 guaranteed activations. Almost done. We've got Luck Be a Lady, a 1-cost event. Maybe if the pistols are considered 1 card, this might be my number 3 card in the pack. A 1-cost event, superpower, hero action, discard the top card of your deck and count the resources on it. For each resource counted this way, if it is a energy resource, heal 2 damage from a character. A genius resource, remove 2 threat from a scheme. If it's a physical resource or a strength resource, deal 3 damage to an enemy. And if it's a wild, choose one of the above. Now, importantly, if it's a wild resource with Domino, which you're doing this as a hero action, you get to pick 2 of them essentially. This is like Hexbolt. It is dependent on, a little bit of luck. To Domino, it's not really luck because she can so easily set up the top of her deck. But if you need to heal for 4, you have a way to set that up. You are probably going to be picking 2 of these options because you're probably going to hit a wild resource. Obviously, there are other cards in your deck, but if you're building correctly, if you're setting up the top of your deck, I'm about to remove 2 threat. I'm about to deal 6 damage. I'm about to, whatever it is you're looking for, you can pretty well set up what this card is going to do, which makes it a very flexible card. I think I have yet to try multi-talented a lot in this deck, just because I haven't played Domino much since Jubilee came out. But I feel like this is a cheaper version of multi-talented. But because you only have 1, I would be very interested in maybe putting in a copy or 2 of multi-talented just to be backup versions of Luck Be a Lady. Great card. It's one of my favorites. And last of her cards is Lucky and Good, a 1-cost upgrade, superpower, hero interrupt, defense. When a boost card is turned face up during an attack against you, exhaust Lucky and Good, cancel that card's boost icons and boost ability, give the attacking enemy another boost card for this attack. So if you see a really ugly, 3 icon boost card or a boost ability you really don't like, this is a way to turn it off. Like the Painted Lady, I imagine I think the Painted Lady is very highly regarded. I think Lucky and Good is another card where it kind of turns into that Phoenix Down problem. It's great. I just don't get a lot of use out of it because it's just not the top priority. I like the fact that you can basically halt an attack and really lessen it. You do run the risk that you might hit something that's just as bad, but if it's really that bad, I would much rather say we're going to cancel these 3 out and hope that we only get 1 icon. So good card, just not something that I particularly care too much about. So moving on to the Obligation and Nemesis kit. Let's start with the Obligation, which is Memories of Armageddon. I believe Armageddon was the project that she was kind of like tortured in before she kind of became part of X-Force. Well, that's a long story, but either way, I think Armageddon is like the name of the program. Give to the Obligation, give to the Neena Thurman player. Treat your identity's printed text box as if it were blank except for traits. Alter Ego action, exhaust your identity, discard Memories of Armageddon. Oh, so it sucks when you lose all your abilities. Unlike other cards I've talked about that were similar to this is not going to be given to Hulk. This is not going to be given to other characters who might have part of their text box that actually is a handicap to them. I will always go to Alter Ego to get rid of this card, because this card messes you up so badly. And suddenly those wild resources that you're flipping are only worth 1. That's just no fun. And this is a perfect offset to what she does. Well, yeah, Project Armageddon right there at the bottom. I don't know why I didn't see that. This is a perfect foil to what she's trying to do. And this is an obligation that I know instinctively I do not want on the table. I will fight to get it away. Then we have her Nemesis, Topaz. A minion, 1 scheme, 2 attack, 3 health, mutant. When revealed, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a set aside area for a copy of Superpower Feedback and attach it to your identity. Shuffle. So when she comes into play off Shadow of the Past, not only are you going to get her side scheme, but you're going to get a copy of Superpower Feedback. And I think that is probably an important thing to just kind of look at real quick. We have 2 copies of it. So this is sort of an extension of Topaz. This does land on any hero, but will obviously land, because of Shadow of the Past, on Domino first. Superpower Feedback is an attachment condition attached to your identity. Force response: after you resolve an ability on your identity or an identity specific card, take 1 damage. Alter Ego action, discard 1 identity specific card from your hand, discard this card. So this is basically saying, hey, you are doing things you're not supposed to be doing. I'm going to hurt you for that. This is not the same as Memories of Armageddon, where I will go out of my way to get rid of it, but it is a card that I kind of want to get rid of sooner rather than later, just because it can be so obnoxious to like have to sit there and be like, okay, if I activate the pistols, I'm going to take a damage. Is that a trade-off that I just don't even want to think about it. And so Topaz as a character, pretty easy to handle. Her feedbacking your superpowers is obnoxious, and so that's what sort of turns her into like a 2-card card. Is not only do you have to deal with the body, but you have to deal with what's going on. And I don't think a basic activation counts towards this, because it's an ability. I think the ability, in the example of Domino, is the hero action. I don't believe that just making a basic attack is going to deal damage to you. I could be wrong. I don't think it is, though. Either way, Topaz is gonna make your day worse, which I guess every Nemesis ought to. Let's look at the side scheme real quick. Not my lucky day. Side scheme: when revealed, each player must either take 1 damage or place 2 threat here, and then it has the icon that boosts your boost icons. This is obnoxious, but it's not something that I'm too worried about. She has 9 hit points, so you're sort of valuing your hit points pretty well. As I've already commented on, she doesn't have great thwart, but I would almost rather just deal with 5 threat than a damage. That might make me a little unconventional, but it's kind of up in the air. This is not the worst side scheme. It's like I said, it's obnoxious, but it's not like gonna ruin your day. And the last card we are looking at is Prototype, a 2-scheme, 2-attack mutant traded minion with 1 asterisk health. Prototype gets +1 hit point for each lucky counter on him. When revealed, place lucky counters on Prototype equal to the amount of damage your identity has sustained. Lordy Lord, if this happened to Deadpool, it would make Prototype would just be enormous. So this kind of goes in line with Not My Lucky Day. That extra damage means that if you haven't hit Prototype, that's an extra amount of health that he starts out with. I don't generally worry about Prototype too much, because not only do you have to hit Shadow of the Past, then you have to find him somewhere in the deck. He's not that threatening in that respect, and he has nothing like guard or patrol that means you need to take him out. Obviously, 2-attack or 2-scheme every turn is something to consider, but it's so low in the totem pole that I've never really worried too much about it. Alright, today was not my lucky day as I just cracked my head against the table. Okay, so Domino. As I've already said, one of my favorite heroes. She's right up there in like the top 10, top 5. I adore Domino, and I hope that some of what I've discussed today means that you also adore her. She is, in my mind, a great hero once you get your experience under you. Once you have your legs, she is great. Just the ability to bend your probability and make your successes even more successful. I will say that she's a hero that when you first start playing her, your turns may be long, but once you get into a multiplayer situation and you just have like that time while the other person goes, there will be times when you get your hand and you already know what your turn's going to look like. Obviously, there is the what's the card I'm going to draw off the top of my deck that can very much change things, but for the most part, once you're experienced, you know what you're going to be doing. You have a good sense of what your turn's going to look like, and I appreciate that. She's the kind of character that rewards you for your skill, and really, I just can't sing her praises more. Domino's a great hero. I hope that she's a hero that you like too. Let me know in the comments if you are plus or minus on her. But until next time, when we will be talking about, gosh, we are already getting to Rogue and Gambit. That's bonkers. But until next time, I will see you all later, and have a great day.